If we do, the reason why we have that money funded in the budget this year was in case, because of our staff shortage, you know, it takes a lot of people to pull this thing together. It's just an inventory of going out and looking at all these service lines and how it connects to the meter, which we can, they're in a vault, very easily identifiable. But it's just, and then you gotta enter it on the form. It's just a lot of time consuming stuff. So, if we needed help with that, this third-party company could provide that as an hourly. It's not a lock-in, it's an hourly rate. If we need them, if we don't pay them anything.
Any questions for Randy on this one? Yeah, Nick, go ahead, please.
Could we, I mean, this is kind of, thanks for, it's kind of a little vague in what you said, so is, you're back in the water department, you can kind of explain to the citizen kind of exactly what it is. And
Jonathan, you want to take it?
Mayor, council, it's good to see you guys. Wish my good friend Randy Edwards was here. I hope he's watching. As Randy said, it's a pretty simple thing. It is daunting on the surface. It's a 600-page thing, but I've been through it 3 times, word by word, made sure all bases are covered. We're at a great advantage with our system, the age of our system. A lot of our lines are poly, copper, which, because they've been updated over the years. Over 80% of our infrastructure is new. Poly is plastic, copper, PVC of some sort. So we're at a great advantage with that. We're also at another advantage with, we just completed the residential change-out program with our meters. That gave us access to every meter pit in town. My guys had eyes on every meter pit, residential in town, which is under the regulations, more than allowable. They love it when you're visually inspecting things. So we're good on that. We've started working on the commercial as well. We're probably a third of the way through that. There are some bigger meters that we're not looking at replacing because of the cost of them. So we haven't gotten visual inspection on those yet, but that would take a matter of a few weeks probably if we had the manpower. As he said, we are at a staff shortage. We're fixing to be down another 2 people at the end of the month. My own retirement, we just lost a young man to the Air Force. So I'm sure we can fill those positions. You guys have done a great job at jumping our pay rate, and so we're attracting a lot of great potential candidates to come. Again, we've got the bases covered. We use information that we have, records from over the years, from the building in the inspection department, CPS reports, customer service inspection reports from our environmental team. So everything that we need, we have on hand. We've reviewed a lot. And again, with what we already have with the records of all of our meters, that's got to be at least 80% of what we have. You're talking about commercial-wise, I don't have the exact number, but it's minute compared to the 7,000 residential meters we have. And I've already filled out, like you said, I've already started working on the database. 2,000 meters in just a matter of hours. That's just when I had time at my desk, when I wasn't working on something else. I had a few hours. I would start pinning it down and filling out the database. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. It's very simple. They provided very good details to us, instructions. So I mean, basically we've got it whipped, and we're in really good shape.
so for the citizens, what the state is asked, and well, not asked, but demanding to do is first figure out all these lines. And there's 4 categories, correct me if I'm wrong. One is lead, one's like a lead connection or lead connection. The other one is no lead, and the other's unknown. To my understanding, we will have no unknowns by October. And we got to October next year to get all of our things into one of those 4 categories. My understanding that we're going to be on track. We will not submit any unknowns. And I'm also, correct me if I understand right, we have no lead pipes. So that means that we're only going to have 2 categories, either connect to lead, and what that is anything past 1989, that's when the EPA said you could not use lead solder. So anything before that has a possibility of having lead solder in it. Am I correct in that?
That's not entirely true. at this point and at this stage of the game for them,
Yeah.
they recognize that the solder and the pigtails and those things that were used on the copper lines, that is lead, but that is not what they're being asked for right now. So that is not one of the 4 classifications. It would be lead, it's non-lead, it's galvanized requiring replacement. So any galvanized that has ever at any time been downstream from a lead source would count as galvanized needing replacement.
Right.
They treat it the same as a lead because it's going to leach that lead that was downstream from, which we don't have galvanized anyway. We don't have lead to begin with, so wouldn't have to worry about downstream. And if there's any galvanized that has been abandoned over the years, that it's going to deteriorate before a couple of years. So there's no doubt in my mind. Now, I don't have the right to say this tonight, since I won't be here in 30 days. I won't be here in 22 days, actually. So I don't have a right to tell you when it will be completed, but I have no doubt in my mind that someone will take this over, and as easily as I've been able to collect information, because the information is there. We have a great relationship with other departments. I ask for records, they're there. They have everything filed, we're good. I've talked with senior personnel, which is another one of the tools that we're allowed to use. Randy Edwards is one of those people. I mean, when you're talking about 100 years worth of experience in the city, their word's as good as anything. And the EPA recognizes that. You're supposed to use everything available to you, which is why we are very fortunate to have all of our records for the changing out of the meters, residential and commercial. But again, it's good enough. If the senior personnel who worked in the system for 40 years, 50 years, going back to the pre-lead days, 1989.
Yeah. So are you saying we have no galvanized pipes either? So we
Not,
have no
not,
lead-
not that we're aware of.
No galvanized.
I've been here a long time. I've never come across, now, in my early career, there were several galvanized lines, but like you said, they've deteriorated and they've been
And
replaced.
they've been replaced?
I've never, in my entire career, come across a lead service line.
Okay.
We do, every 3 years, we have to do the lead copper testing, sampling, all over the city. Those tests get sent in, they send it back, the results.
Okay.
We've never had anything violation or even remotely, which would show you leaching from like the fittings and the interior line. Like I think Larry and them have been, y'all swabbed that stuff, Larry, still. Yeah. So, I mean, we're very active on the lead copper stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's every 3 years we go through and test. It's a broad range over the city, about 40 sites that we go out and hand out bottles, and they do the copper and lead testing. And we've never had anything close to action level, let alone in exceedance of the levels that the EPA provides. And again, any lead that may be in someone's house is not because of our lead service lines, because of their lead plumbing. If their house predates, I don't have the earliest standing house that we have in Saginaw, but if it was built anywhere around the 1940s, 1950s, it probably has lead plumbing in their house. But that's going to be a resident issue.
But
not-
we'll need to notify them as part of this, ain't it?
We're not going to know because the service line's not lead. Right now, we're investigating the service lines on our
both
side.
sides.
Yes.
So you are going to notify them if their side of the service line is either lead or the other one.
Galvanized, yeah.
Galvanized.
We would, but at this point in time, again, because we've been through all of the residential
Right.
and found none, and we've already gone through about a third of the commercial, which the total commercial is somewhere in the hundreds. It's a very small, minute number. So there's very little left that has to be gone out. And even, again, some of those is going to be 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch meters.
Yeah.
And the EPA recognizes that they didn't use lead above a 2-inch.
Right.
So, again, we've got nothing but advantages in this
Right.
setup. So again, I don't have the right to tell you that this will be done long before the October 14th, 2024, but I can almost guarantee you it will be.
Well, if we're, if we're confident we don't have lead lines and we're confident we don't have galvanized lines, boy, that just made our lives a lot easier.
And we'll be good for the future. A lot of people are going to be in a continuous working pattern because they're going to investigate, they're going to find stuff, and then every 3 years when they do the lead and copper testing with the bottles, they're going to have to update this inventory list of what they've changed out, what they've identified, how they've notified customers, and we're gonna be exempt from all of that. So we're in really good shape. So it's a matter of, again, just continuing to look at the records that we have available to us. We do need to do some visual inspections on commercial, but that's under 200, and then it's filling out an Excel spreadsheet, which again, if I was able to put in 2,000 meters in a few hours of just finding the time, we only have 8,500 of all.
Yeah.
Residential, commercial, so we've got it under control, I promise.
Yeah, and my biggest thing here is to let the citizens know, because when they see this, they see lead, everybody knows what happened, in Flint, Michigan and everything.
Right.
I just wanted to stir that off and say, hey, you know, don't get worried, this is actually a good thing.
Yeah, no, we have a very good water department here. We take care of our residents.
Agree,
All right.
appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thanks, sir.
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
it, man. I like the suit. Very nice.
Thank you. Like the tie?
I do. Very nice. I like it. All right, any other questions on this? If not, I will entertain a motion on 2C.
Mayor, I move that we approve 2C as is written.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, second, please cast your votes.
Boy, it ain't liking us today.
Normally, it's a little faster than this, so this is,
Well, wait a second.
it's frustrating, but. All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
There it is.
Hey, now it pops up. Did you
Oh,
can do that? Okay.
I was
no.
like, whoa.
All right, well, we'll move forward.
Okay.
All right, going to item, we're at 3A, presentation, City of Saginaw Employee Survey Results. We get Ron online. And FYI, we're gonna keep Ron after this one and do 5A, since that involves Ron as well, where we've got him on the line. So we will pull 5A up.
See us, there he is.
There he is.
Yes.
Hey, Ron, can you hear us?
No?
Or we can't hear you, though. We can see you. Hopefully you can hear us, but we cannot hear you. Still no.
Nope.
It don't look like we got him muted on our end.
Huh?
If I look down here, you all got him muted on the main.
Yeah.
Keep going farther right. Take that arrow. Keep going. Keep going.
Going.
Right there.
There.
On the speaker.
Yeah.
Not yet.
No, they still got him muted. You need to go back. Just double click on that down there and it should unmute him.
Click on the speaker. And then click the left side there.
There you go.
Do you want me to try talk?
There we go.
Hey, there you are.
Good evening.
We got you now, Ron. Say
Very
hello.
good. Well, I'm excited to speak with you about your survey and to share the results. I trust all of you have had a chance to review it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All righty. I'm going to share my screen and do you have it in front of you anyway because you, I want to be here. Do you have it in front of you yourselves? And should I be going through this live on a screen? I think this is the right way to do it.
I think if you go through,
Okay, let me do
live on the screen.
a brief,
Yeah, go
let
ahead.
me do a brief introduction here. The survey was conducted from September 20th to October 20th. So we haven't been out of the field very long, 2 weeks. We invited 160 employees to participate, 141 did, which is pretty good, a response rate of 88%. So very impressive with that. And I would say most of them came in early on, but we did have a few come in each time we did a request. It went quite well. let me jump into, I have a summary here that I'm not going to go over. This is helpful if somebody wants to read everything all at once. But I would like to jump in and share a couple of things. First, about the direction of the city. Some people believe that the vibe has improved in the past 1 to 2 years, and some people believe it's declined. And some people would say it's stayed the same. So you're kind of a mix in what's the vibe for the working environment, with some feeling improved and some feeling declined. On the other hand, there's a strong agreement that you're heading in the right direction. So there's a lot of, I think, tolerance and forgiveness for where things are, maybe currently right now, because the feeling is, for the most part, we're heading in the right direction. Now, if you hear a lot of people tell you that things are going in the wrong direction, it's not going to be hard to find them. 1 in 5 says things are going in the wrong direction. The other 4 out of 5 say things are going the right direction. So you could find yourself hearing from the people feeling it's going the wrong direction quite easily, because there's 20% of them in the mix. But for the most part, you're doing well. And compared to other cities, most people think it's better or about the same as other cities. And if you do, that 20% think it's worse. I'm going to also talk about motivation briefly. The motivation to start each new day and to do their job is pretty high. We see that 41% are very motivated, 26 are somewhat motivated. You have only 14% who said that they don't feel very motivated. Not too bad. I do want to talk also, before I pause and take some questions, I want to show you some benchmarks. We've done other cities. These are cities that were actually strong cities. All of these cities felt that their employees were probably in a good place. They felt that their city had come through some change, but that things were probably pretty good. And for the most part, Saginaw is not too far behind. City better than others is further behind, but the motivation to start each day is nearly the same, pretty close. And the indicators of, like, are we heading in the right direction, of an improved vibe and going the right direction, Saginaw's pretty good. You know, the vibe could be better compared to other cities, but going in the right direction is right up there with the best. And so, you know, I see that you're heading in the right direction, and maybe there's room to improve, but there's a positive feeling. And I'm going to pause right now and just see if you have any questions and make sure I haven't left you behind.
Council, any questions for Ron right now?
We're good.
All right, keep going, Ron.
All righty. All right. We asked about 5 types of 5 themes. Do they feel engagement and meaning? Do they feel accepting and safe? Do they feel growth and autonomy? What do they feel about teamwork and work-life harmony? And what do they think about department heads and executive leaders? And we asked them to pick the top 2 out of each. And as we do this, we can see the top 2 for engagement and meaning. It's important to them that their opinions are valued, and it looks like there's some room for improvement. And they do want to be recognized for accomplishments, and it also looks like there's some room for improvement. The other attributes are good, but you know, or have their relevance, but you're doing pretty well with them in general. So, appreciating opinions, recognizing people for work accomplishments, areas to improve. Accepting and safe, kind of similar in some respects, but there is a feeling that policies need to be applied fairly to all employees. And it doesn't appear that things are perfect in that space. Like there does seem to be departments where maybe the policies are not being adhered to the same as they are in other departments. Or among different people. And so there's some room to figure out what that might be all about. And then different ideas and opinions are heard and respected. That's very much like we heard on the prior page of engagement and meaning leaders who value your opinions, where that was important. And so are different opinions being heard and respected about the same rating. So, policies being fairly applied and ideas being heard and respected. When we look at growth and autonomy, a lot of people feel the most important thing is to make sure they have the right tools. And for the most part, it appears you're doing okay, although there's room to improve. We can't really tell if there are department level issues somewhere or where the problem might be, but there is a need to have the right tools. And then leaders who care about your success is important, and for the most part, it appears you're doing pretty good. If there's a problem here, some people, and not very many, feel that routine discussions about their career path could use some room to improve, but on the other hand, it's not very many. And so it's maybe about 15 to 20 people who feel that problem. Again, we don't know if that could be in a certain department or not, but we don't know about that. Teamwork and work-life harmony. The most important thing is to have a positive team environment. And for the most part, you're doing pretty good, room to improve, but pretty good. And a balance between personal and professional life, also very important, and really pretty good. Some room to improve, but pretty good. Regarding department heads and executive leaders, this is one where they want leaders to communicate effectively, and it does appear there's a desire to have some improvement there. And leaders and elected officials that work well together to maintain the city's strategic vision, that's an area where there's room to improve, and maybe a little bit more room to improve on that place. And as I go through the comments, that was a theme that came out more than once when people talked about that, is the desire to have a cohesive group among the leaders and the elected officials. There is a call for some integrity among leaders, maybe a little bit of a gap there. And so now this next page is perhaps the most important one in the study. And it is where we put them all together. And we find out among all of the
Ron, hold on, we had a question. Ron, we had a
which are
question.
the most important ones.
Can you go back?
Was there a comment?
Yeah, we had a question, Ron. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I need him to go back, or whoever.
Do you want me to go back one?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted to point this out. Let me find it again. Well, I mean, I got it all the way up here, unless I swallow it. I don't want to skip over number 2 here. Leaders and elected officials that work well together. If you take okay and you take the very poor, that's 80%. And that's a significant number. To me, I guess what I'm trying to say is that's something we should be taking a look at. That to me
I
is
think so.
what you call a watershed metric in that anything 80% either good or 80% bad is something you need to take a look at. And that's 80% bad. So we need to take a look at how our elected officials and our leaders work better together. That's what that data's telling me. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah,
vice
you
versa.
are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we go to the top 20, you'll find that it's in the top 5. This one, the leaders and elected officials work well together. So it's in the top 5 of their most important things, and it is the one where things are rated the lowest, right? So I think it's a very significant one to pay attention to. Also, policies being fairly applied, it does appear that there's just something between some department, and when I read the comments, it does seem that there are departments where people feel that everything is not being done the same as in other departments. And so we'll want to look into that a little bit. But it's, you know, they want things to be fair and consistent across departments, and they definitely want the leaders to work really well with the city, the elected officials and the city leaders to work well together. Yeah. The next page, and this is kind of an important one too. Let me go to this next page, and we can come back here. But I took on the left-hand side. Was there a comment?
No, I don't think so. Go ahead.
Okay, on the left-hand side, these are the motivated employees. These are the ones who said they were very motivated or somewhat motivated on the left-hand side. And then I just took the top 10 for them. And then on the right-hand side, these are the people who were somewhat unmotivated or very unmotivated. So you expect them to give lower ratings overall, and they do. But the motivated ones, the people who come today, every day, and they feel pretty good about things, the number one thing they want is for the elected officials and the leaders to work together on the strategic vision. So I thought that was very meaningful. And even among them, it's pretty negative. As Nikki mentioned, here you have 75% being okay or poor or very poor. And so I think that is something to mention as a pretty strong evidence. Among those who are very or somewhat motivated, there aren't really many big holes other than, I mean, there's a call to maybe communicate a little more effectively, but it's not bad. And policies being fairly applied, and that's not so bad. Among the unmotivated staff, that's a big issue, the policies being applied fairly, and it seems to be sufficient enough that it is demotivating for them. And it also is sufficient enough that they feel the leaders themselves don't have the integrity that they would like. So I think that's these top two are very meaningful to figure out what we can maybe do to make sure there's consistent feel that everyone's treated fairly and the leaders show the integrity that they need for their position.
It's number 4 on your motivated and number 1 on your unmotivated. So it is definitely should be a major concern.
Yeah.
Are these actual numbers or are these percentages on this slide?
These are, all of them are percentages.
Okay, thank you.
And also for the unmotivated staff, just bear in mind, this is 19 people. So remember, there aren't very many who are unmotivated. They're just a handful, but they are there and they are unmotivated. And, you know, these reasons are very clear for what may be the primary cause. And it's not really so much, I mean, it is about maybe having the right tools or a positive work environment, and those are right up there. But it's more so about the policy and the way leaders are leading in this case. And then you have a lot of people, 94 over here, who are very motivated or somewhat motivated. And by and large, they're not talking at all about the ability to do, you know, the problems with being able to do their work because of the right tools or even their work environment. I mean, it's all pretty good for them. And maybe what I'd like to do is just go back to this page. This is the overall, and just see if you have any further comments, anything you'd like me to comment on.
Not this page, but I remember when I was reading through this, I know farther on down, some of them, you actually narrow it right on down to these are the key parameters you need to look at. right? I mean, I remember reading a slide that you had that.
Oh, yeah, I did. I definitely took, oh, you mean the comment section, maybe?
Not the comment section, no, you took it and you drew it and you said, these are the top 3 areas you all might need to look at, I thought you had something like that on there.
Is that on the, is that the summary?
Yeah, and it might have been in just the overall summary, I bet it was. I should have printed it out, I don't have it in front of me.
Sure, Mary, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I didn't have my microphone turned on. When we had the slide that showed the very motivated and the unmotivated,
Yeah,
It
that's the
didn't-
slide that I'm showing right now.
okay, it says 19 were unmotivated and 94 were motivated, but that doesn't add up to 141.
No, correct, the neutral people I haven't included, but we could bring in the
Okay,
neutrals as
so
well.
the other,
And when I bring in the neutrals, there's 122
Okay.
here.
I just wondered what was the reason for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I was really trying to get my handle on, like, you know, left or right, one way or the other. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, compensation and benefits. Compensation and benefits, for the most part, the most important to them, of course, is their salary, and there are those who are somewhat dissatisfied with it. 32%, but you know, I will say, I don't see, I hate to say anything that might be misunderstood, but it doesn't seem like the problems are vast, you know, that it's a serious problem. And let me click on this and let's look at the unmotivated people too. So right now on the fly, we've just kind of looked at the unmotivated people. Oh, is that not working? That didn't work. All right, I thought I had that working properly, but I'm going to the compensation and benefits. I'm going here, and I need to turn on this and this, and turn on the motivation. Okay. But anyway, we can't look at the unmotivated ones for a second here, but I don't see a significant problem here. Regarding policy statements, this is an important one. This also further comments on the elected officials and the support of city employees. So at the very top, people are aware of the policies regarding harassment, discrimination, and they pretty much feel that management shares important information in a consistent manner. There are maybe some gaps, but it's not that bad. And the use of funds, they see some room to improve. It's not horrible, you know, and also good cadence of meetings. Maybe there's some room to improve there. But the bottom one is elected officials are supportive city employees. That's where you see the negative one again. So I mean, it's not a surprise, but it's the same metric again. And just validating that that's a concern. We asked them, what are the positive things that make it a good place to work? What are 3 positive things? Here are the positive things that they selected most, and they are positive that there's been an effort to improve their salaries. That was routinely mentioned more than anything else, and there was a true gratitude for whatever work has been done to address the salaries. And so I think that's the right direction, wrong direction indicator, and they definitely felt positive about that. And they felt pretty good about employee appreciation and in general communications.
Hey, Ron, Ron, number 2 just says generic positive, so that's just a overall positive statement, is that what that means?
Yeah, they just said love it here, happy here, you know, those kinds of things, where it was a variety of good, positive statements, but I just put it in generic positive.
Okay, thank you.
As a matter of fact, if we go to the comments themselves, you could click on that generic one and see what they are. And so, generic positive down here. And so these are some of the generic positives, you know, continue working on these things. Anyway, they don't have a lot to say in particular, but they're a pretty positive thing. And I didn't code them into any other group. They just seemed okay. Or they were in another group and they were also in this one. And so by and large, though, the positive comments were there, and they feel pretty good about many things. There were some positive comments about the city manager, and there were positive comments about their supervisors, and some great co-workers, and so forth. But so those were the positive things. And I'm not going to. And if you want to look at any of the themes, like you can click and go through any of them, and we won't spend the time to go through all of their comments, but all of their comments are here that you can look through and see what they had to say when it was positive. Now, these were optional too. We didn't require a comment. And so, but we have a lot of good comments. And then this, in summary, what I did was I went through the comments and I tried to summarize it for you in a meaningful way. You can go through them all and read them all, but this mostly captures the more common things that they had to say about the positives, where they were pleased with the effort to improve salaries, and they were pleased in general with efforts to have a work-life balance. And they were pleased with the city manager's open door policy, and they thought that was good. Not everybody, but some did. And then promoting employee growth, many of them commented on that. And also just in general, the efforts to have good, solid economic development in the city, that was something that was also mentioned as a positive. When we go for the suggested changes, people still wanted more pay. So I'll just state that right up front, but I think you can acknowledge that for what it is. There were people who did definitely, how Nikki brought up the fact that the working relationship between the city council and the city leaders, that came in, quite a few people mentioned that as a change or a suggestion that was needed. Or maybe something else with the city council they felt needed to be done, but that was a common mention. And other things to appreciate employees and hang on to good employees and keep them. There were a variety of people who commented on that. When I looked at communication improvements, and because that was a frequently mentioned item, I tried to find where the gap was in communication. And for the most part, there wasn't anything that I found that was consistent other than they want good communication. But it's not like they pointed out obvious gaps and that there was a consistency among the people, among the employees on communication improvements. And I'll pause here and just see if you have anything you'd like to say.
All right, keep going, Ron.
Okay, so then you can go through if you want and read the comments yourselves. But in summary, they did want transparency. They wanted consistency in working between departments. I mentioned this, how they mentioned that policies are not always fairly applied, and they wanted some consistency between departments, and that needs to be looked into. And then they did want improved leadership and council relations. There was a routine call for that. And many of them did still request changes in their salaries, and some asked for more staffing for specific departments. And it'd be worth looking at that, I think, at a department level, if, you know, departments can kind of see, or that maybe your city manager, Gabe, look through to find out where the departments are asking for that, and to see if it's really warranted. So, but there were some that mentioned it specifically. Regarding the final comments, do you have anything more you would like to say? It's a broken record now. Usually I only have 2 open-ended comments, because by the time you get to 3, you get a lot of repeats. And that's what happened here. And so there was, again, comments about the city council and salaries. So we had that. And then there were comments about the city manager. Those tended to be positive. There maybe was a couple of negative ones, but most of them tend to be positive. There was a lot of thanks and appreciation for asking for their feedback and reaching out. So they're glad you did this, and they wanted a voice, and they appreciated that you allowed that. And of course, there are those who ask for, and I think it's very practical, promotion from within as much as possible. So there was a fair amount of that. When we talk about leadership issues, that's normally talking about their own leader, and there were some who commented about their leader, but I don't think any specific names were mentioned. So again, you can look at those comments, and then in summary, there was a desire for the council and the employees to have a great relationship, a positive one. Some did request better facilities, said, hey, like the fire station's great, we'd like to have more good buildings. So I don't know if your budget can do that, but there was a call for that. And then some did say that within their own department, there was a negative vibe, and they wish that that could be addressed. And then there was a desire maybe for the city council to be a little more judicious in their own meetings about what they say. Some staff members took offense at certain things that were said during council meetings. I just point that out as when they're watching, it's something to be aware of. And then compensation again. So now, having shared everything, I would like to make a couple of comments. The comments, to me, are very practical. They, by and large, they feel things are going in a good direction. By and large, most are happy. You do have some who are not, and they just want there to be consistency between departments that is addressed, and some fair treatment in the policies. And then I see, regarding the city council leadership working together, it seems that's something that you guys could work out. You know, you're good people on both sides, and it does seem to be a logical request. And to me, I think by and large the news is good. You could have really bad news in a lot of places, but you had a little bit of bad news here and a little bit of bad news there, and a few requests. But to me, I felt you're in a good place. I mean, you could be worse. And of course you could be better, but you could be worse by a great deal. And I'm pretty positive if I were looking at this and saying there's a little bit of room to improve.
Right. Now, Ron, if I'm correct, and Melanie, correct me if I'm wrong, this has only been sent to the city council so far. All right, so I would like to get this sent to Gabe and his staff ASAP. We've seen it now, but they need to see the details because it involves them as well. So that's step one. And step two, we need to figure out what we want to do with this. I had a couple ideas, but I want to hear from the rest of the council as well. One idea is very similar to what we would do in the business world. We'd assign some folks to a committee, start discussing, like, pick the top 3, 4, 5, whatever, the top issues, and discuss what steps can we take, tangible steps we can take. And that committee would involve, I would envision it involving city staff members, department head or 2 or 3 council members, something like that. And they would start meeting and sort of parsing that out, see what they can do stepwise. Because this is a big thing. We can't solve it tonight. But there's steps taken, and I'm appreciative of the employees giving us good, honest feedback. That's what we asked for, that's what we wanted, to understand where we are and what we need to do. You're right, there was some positive feedback, but there's also negative. I'm heartened by some of the good stuff, but some of the bad stuff concerns me, but I think we can address it and take care of it. So that's my thought. What does the rest of the council think?
I agree.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. What I was thinking is have a subcommittee council put together made up of a cross-section of employees, management, and then, 2 or 3 people from council to go off, pick the top issues. They'll have to, of course, dig into them and figure out what we can do to move that needle.
As you're talking, I was thinking maybe each council member could nominate their top 3 issues from this, give that to that committee, and they can sort of pare it down and see, because you can't do everything.
I'd give it to the committee and let them decide.
We'll let them do that?
Yeah, they're diverse, there'll be a diverse team spread out across the thing. Let them,
Okay.
give it to them, let them run with it.
No, I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Other council feedback, comment? Mary, go ahead, please.
Ron, is our city unique in that we had quite a few comments? Is that pretty normal, or did we have more comments than usual? In the comment section, we had great participation. Is that common? I don't think he can hear me.
Ron, can you hear us?
Do you know, it was breaking up. I
right.
apologize for that.
Can you hear me okay?
Very clearly.
All right, I'll paraphrase, and Mary, tell me if I'm paraphrasing wrong. Mary was asking about that we got a lot of comments. Is that normal to get a good amount of comments? Is that normal from surveys?
To get, you mean as big of a response as we got?
Yeah, big response, and also numerous comments and detailed comments. Is that normal?
You know, you had a lot of detailed comments, very thoughtfully done comments, and we have never had 3 comment questions like we had, and it seemed like in general those were taken advantage of by employees. And I've had other cities who didn't want any comments, and so I think they learned less than you learned. So I think you learned a great deal. And I had another one that did have comments, but I say they got about as many as you did. It was about the same. It was also for another Texas city. So I think you were just very normal, positively so, in getting a good engagement from your employees.
Mary, did that answer your question?
Yes, I have another one. So Ron, can you hear me?
Yes.
I noticed that many of the comments, the people that were making the comments, identified the department they were in, which I thought was very helpful. And that made me feel like perhaps the next one we do, we should have it. I don't think people were afraid of being found out as to who answered what. And so I think it would be so helpful to have it done by department so that if there are concerns, we'll know what department has the concerns.
I tend to agree with you there, and I think they didn't seem to be overly concerned with being open. I think there are those who are concerned and will always be concerned, and I think that needs to be respected, and therefore you need to allow them or encourage anonymity. But I think a great many merely want to help and want to share what they would like to see improved.
Other questions, council?
No.
Mary, or Cindy, go ahead.
Confusing us again.
All right.
Ron, first of all, I want to thank you for a great job that you did. The fact that we were able to get 88% participation says a lot about your survey, and it says a lot about our employees as well. And, we are grateful for every one of them, although they probably seem that that's not the case. We really do appreciate them. This is nothing to do with you, but I think this is something that the council needs to act on quickly. We have the survey that we got results from earlier this year, and we haven't done much with that, but we need to work on this one quickly, I think.
What survey are you talking about that we didn't do anything
The
on?
citizen, we haven't done much with it, not anything. We haven't done much with the citizen survey that came out, the results were posted earlier this year.
So, yeah.
Council, other questions?
Not question a thing. I do agree we need to get on it, so, I mean, it would be good if we could have the committee together by next council meeting, and then have that committee lay out a agenda of, you know, kind of timeline and things, and let them work. And I'll be as bold to say that for council, I'd really like to see it, one of the two or three, I guess it could be up to three, I'd really like to see Paul on there. Throw you under the bus.
I was actually gonna say, council members, think about it. If you wanna be on that committee,
Yeah.
send me a note. Just send me privately a note. We'll think about it.
Yeah.
We can't have 4 on there, of course. Y'all know that. We can have 3. 2 or 3 would be my thought. And then I would throw it to Gabe and his staff to volunteer folks, or nominate folks. And I don't want them all to be department heads. I want a good cross-section of employees. I think that would be more representative, folks that are interested and have a stake in the city, because a lot of our employees have a strong stake in the city, and I want to hear, get them a part of this solution as well.
I do think we need one representative from each department, so Public Works, Fire Department, police.
And those who are unhappy, I'd like to know what ideas they have to make improvements.
Well, that's what the committee will do. They need to go figure that out.
Well, I mean, and that's
Yeah.
what, I understand, but I mean, if we had those who have concerns about, that answered or responded with concerns on the survey, you know, they should also seriously consider being on this committee.
You bring up a good point. If you can hear my voice, if you're here tonight or you listen to this later and you're a city employee and you want to be involved, send me a note. Please. If you want to be involved, send me a note and we'll get you on there, all right? If you're very passionate about this, something that really interests you, let me know. Even if you're retiring soon, that's fine. So, you know, whatever y'all think. So please, I'd like to get, if you want to be involved, I'd like to get you involved. So. Ron, anything else you want to add to this? I do. I want to echo what Cindy said. I really appreciate this. This was a very well-done survey. I like the detail of it. I like the metrics. But I personally learned more from the comments than anything else. Reading through the comments was very enlightening, so I'm glad we added those sections.
Neither one of those sections can stand alone. The comments were important, but it was substantiated by the analysis data.
Yep.
All right, Ron, anything else you want to add?
Nothing more. It's always a pleasure to work with you guys. You're a great group of people, and I wish you every success.
All right, so outside of this, I have 2 action items. 1 is to send the survey out to Gabe and the department heads, ASAP. And 2 is to establish a subcommittee containing 2 to 3 council members plus at least 1 representative from each department. There could be more. I don't know more than 10 seems like a lot. Maybe less than 10 people, or total 10 people-ish. What would be the number? But something like what makes sense, and I want Gabe and the staff to nominate folks, or again, if you're a city employee and you want to send me a note, so you want to be involved, go for it. We'll get you on there. So, anything else that I missed from this as an action item, folks? Everybody good? Gabe, you want to add something?
Yeah, just one note, I think we're gonna talk about another item while we have Ron on the line.
We are. That's on my list.
Just want to remind you.
Nope, Pedro reminded me before the meeting. So.
Yes, sir.
So anything else on this item before we move to, and Ron, stay on the line. Well, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna pull up, it's 5A. It's also Ron. We're gonna pull it up while we have Ron on the phone. So, anything else on 3A? This is not the last time we'll talk about this, but this is a great start. So thank you. And also, thank you to all the city employees that participated. I appreciate it. Appreciate your comments and your participation. All right, so that's no action on that one. So moving to 5A, consideration action regarding a second-year survey with on-point insights. Is that you, Pedro?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Sorry, Murphy's Law has decided to definitely hang out with us today. So as you can see, I have many computer screens in front of me. But essentially, this agenda item is talking about the second year. We're just entering our second year with the contract with Ron to do surveys. They don't have to be specifically citizen surveys. So the option is to either do a citizen survey, business survey or just hold off a little bit longer for staff to keep working before we do another survey. And with that, I think if you have any questions about either the citizen survey or the other options, Ron is here to answer those.
Yeah, I know you mentioned before about a business survey. What would that look like, Ron? Can you sort of walk us through what that would entail?
Yeah, well, we've developed a draft of a business survey. We've had several cities ask us to do a business owner survey or a business leader survey. And in some respects, it follows some of the basic patterns that we've established with the citizen survey and also the staff survey, but it is focused on the needs of the business owners or the business managers themselves to find out what's working well in the city and where they see areas for improvement in having the city be more vibrant as far as business goes and better for them. And so we have developed a survey. I would say, if we did it, by the way, with you, you would be the first city to do it. All right, so there's a little bit of I would do everything in my power to make it be a success, but there's also a little bit of risk on your part because you're the guinea pigs. And so I'm comfortable and confident, but I would have to work harder, I think, to make sure this is a success than if we just did a citizen survey again, which we know how to do that, and we've been down that path many times. The business survey would also require a little bit more collaboration, because although we have a strong draft, we would want to make sure that it definitely meets your city's needs, and so we would want people like Nikki and others, to be involved, to think this through and to make sure it's a strong business survey. I also think it would be a little bit shorter than a citizen survey, because I think by and large, a business owner will be less tolerant of a long survey, but not much, just somewhat shorter, just to make sure that we don't overburden a business owner. But that's it. We could do it. It would mean that we need to work cautiously and thoughtfully about inviting business owners to participate. We would need to be collaborative about how to do it in ways that reach as many as we can. And I think we could be successful.
Council question
The
for Ron?
citizen survey would be the same thing that we've done before, except for we could make a variety of important changes that we think are needed.
Yeah, I got a question. So one is, this seems to be more in the wheelhouse of the Chamber of Commerce and I guess it would fall underneath you than it would us. That's why we have a Chamber of Commerce. They deal a lot with the businesses and stuff, so it seems like to me this would be something that we would reach out to them. Maybe they already do before we expended citizens' money to go do that.
Yeah, I don't know, because this is a pretty new chamber, and I don't know how deeply we're involved. What do you think, Keith?
I think it'd be wise to get the Chamber of Commerce involved.
Keith? I'm sorry, I was asking Keith as well. So, Keith?
Like you said, we're relatively new with this chamber. They're just getting started with us, and we're behind the 8 ball in compared to the other 4 cities. They are, as a city or as a chamber, they are growing as far as getting Saginaw businesses recruited into their chamber. But just because we join a chamber or we start our own doesn't mean that all of the businesses are going to be involved.
True.
It does. A survey like this does focus on chamber and I guess economic development too.
How many businesses do we have as part of the Northeast Chamber? Ballpark?
Most recent number that I saw was, hold on, there we go. The most recent number I saw was, and that's a hard answer to give, only because it's not something I track, and there are quite a few businesses that were already, Saginaw businesses that were already a member of that chamber because they didn't have another chamber to be involved in. So how many have they recruited? I think I heard 25 or 30 since, I guess since we joined. But how many they have that are in Saginaw? I don't have that number to tell you. Because there, like I said, there were quite a few that were already members.
Council, other questions about this? Mary, go ahead.
Not a question, but I do think it's an intriguing idea, and I think we could learn a lot from our businesses, you know, what their feelings are and, you know, what areas they think we need to improve and what they're happy about. I think we could learn a lot from that and maybe improve our relationship with the businesses.
Well, I agree. I think it's a really good idea. Really something we've never done. Not a lot of people have, so we would break new ground. I think it'd be a good, just to communicate with our businesses, because we don't do that a lot. That's a good point. Cindy? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just, I'm all for doing this. I'd like to have, as we found out with the employee survey, opportunities for comments, because I think we may unearth some ideas that these businesses have that we haven't thought of, and I think it'd be a good way for them to communicate it to us.
I would like to hear from the Chamber of Commerce and come up with, before I commit to voting to spend taxpayers' money, and at least get a basic outline of what that would be.
I guess I would envision Ron working with the chamber, and Ron still driving the survey, but involving the chamber. Maybe that's what I had in my head.
Yeah.
You know, and we would pay for it probably, because I don't know if the chamber would be willing to pay that, even if the chamber has that kind of tools. I don't know.
It, you know, it's really the job of the chamber to recruit businesses into their chamber. I can encourage them, hey, we have a Chamber of Commerce, and tell them all about it, which I do, but I can't make them do that. That's their job to recruit their customers, and that their customers are our businesses.
But we got skin in the game. We expended taxpayers' money to start that, so.
Yeah.
And it, you know, I do expect every year us to get an estimate, and if that's not a good investment for our citizens, we quit spending the money. So it ain't as if we just give it to them and then no. So the information that Cindy asked for about what's the total number of businesses that's joining the Chamber of Commerce, that's, to me, that's critically important for me to decide whether I'll continue to support a Chamber of Commerce.
It is, but when asked a question, point blank, not having preparation,
Yeah, no, I
knowing
ain't
you
picking
can
on
ask,
you. I'm just
it's
saying.
hard for me to make, I can make one up, but I don't think you want me to do that.
You
I can
the
get
right
that
answer.
number
It's-
for you,
It's no
certainly.
problem. I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
that's why you see me wanting to dig in, wanting to work hand in hand with the Chamber of
Oh,
Commerce
yeah.
and get their viewpoint on this before I up and raise my hand and say yes. You know, and at least get some kind of basic idea, like even what we're gonna ask them, what we're, you know.
Yeah.
Cindy, you have a question?
If we were, Ron, if we were to go forward with this survey, what would the council and the city have the ability to do with the results?
It all depends on, I don't know. First of all, I think a lot of it would be just good knowledge about the health and strength of your businesses. So I think that would be useful. But you could also use it to recruit people to come into council meetings with you. Like you could have a business council of some sort, right, that comes and meets with you. There are a variety of ways that you could potentially think of using this data, but I think, I mean, there are plenty of policies that you pass and plenty of things that you do as a city that business owners could benefit if they were aware of them or if they knew about them. I understand you do grants to help businesses in certain situations. It'd be good for them to understand, or good for you to understand their awareness of that. I'm not sure exactly. It's a really good question, and maybe I'm not the right one to answer that question. It kind of needs to come back on you as a body to think, well, what would we need to know, and how could we use this to be more useful as a council to our business owners?
Ron, I've heard numbers, but can you tell us what a business survey would cost?
Well, we would do it for the same cost as what normally approved the citizen survey.
Which is, remind us how much?
I think it was 9,960.
9,000?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good information. All right. Council, other questions, comments?
Personally, I would like to table this until the next meeting, you know, if Keith could, you know, possibly get us some more information. Give us an opportunity to think about some questions that we could potentially come up with that might benefit us or, you know, benefit businesses.
And in reference, the price of the survey is about 3 times more than what we actually pay to be a partner city in the chamber.
You're right, that's a good point. We don't pay much to be part of the chamber. This is not a chamber discussion, but it's a small number. Other council, what do y'all think about moving forward or tabling this item? What would we like to do? What's the pleasure of the council?
It depends on your definition of move forward. I'm with Cindy, I would like to see an outline of exactly what this is before I invest citizens' money. So if we can get a basic outline of what our objective is and, you know, kind of how we think it would go, then yeah, I can see that, but I need a little more.
Ron, is that something you could provide, just sort of an outline of what, you know, maybe work with Keith, and Keith can reach out to the chamber and just give an outline of what a business survey might entail to help us make a decision on this? What do you think, Ron?
So you're just wanting to see what the survey would look like? Is that what you're saying?
Well, just the overall framework of what a survey would involve, but also what it might give us, what we might get out of this.
Yeah, right.
I provided a draft to the city already. Pedro has a draft of a survey that we have put together. He and I reviewed it. I tell you, he got excited when he saw it. Like, it was very positive. I would gladly share the draft of what we have, which is strong. Like, it's not a weak draft. It's a strong draft. It could only be improved as we collaborated.
Yeah,
I could even share it right now. Like, it would take us minutes to go through some of the
well,
questions.
hold on. Pedro had a
wish.
comment.
Yeah, it's actually attached to your agenda packet, and this was sent to myself and some other, I sent it to you, I'm not sure, but I know Keith saw it as well. But it's attached, both the citizen survey from last year and the business one was attached to your packet.
Was our economic development director involved in that?
I sent it to him for review, but it was over the past weekend, so.
I wasn't involved in the questions, or I just happened to see what it was.
Okay. So have you had time to review it and reply back?
At the end of last week, yes.
Okay. So has his comments been put back into that?
Yeah, I'm trying to open the survey on my iPad, and it just doesn't want to scroll through the pages. All I see is the first page of it.
Do we want Ron to pull this up, or do we want to?
I'd say table it then. Let us can somebody send it to us? It got buried. I didn't see it.
Okay. All right, then, I'm fine with that. I think Ron will be okay with that. Do a little homework and get back to us. I'd love to get Keith to have a little more involvement. I don't want to put you to work, but I want your brain power. All right, if so, then any other questions, comments? I will entertain a motion to table, or just a motion.
I have a question. Do I have to recuse myself from all this? Because I don't know business.
That's a brain question.
No, okay.
That'd be universal applicability, so you wouldn't have to.
All right, I'll entertain a motion, council.
Mayor, I move that we table this to the next session.
Table it until the December meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. All second? Can we cast our votes? What do you think? All raise your right hand. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those, thank you, guys. Ron, thank you, sir. Let's talk again, but I really appreciate your work. This was some great information.
Okay, very good. Thank you all.
Have a good evening. Thank you, sir. All right, so we're going to roll back to 3B. Update on Highland Station Park pedestrian crossing. It's going to be Trenton, or who's this going to be?
So Misty will be leading us through a presentation. We talked about this at our last meeting, giving an update on where we're at with the conceptual design on the Highland Station pedestrian crossing. So Misty, Laura, and I, and Randy have been working on this, and I think we're in a good spot to present.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. My name is Misty Christian. I work with Laura and Trent. I've been with Kimberly Horn for about 22 years now. I've worked with Saginaw for quite a bit, and I think it's been a good 15 years before last presenting to y'all. So I'm excited about tonight. I'm going to give a quick overview of the Highland Station Park, an update, and hopefully this will be the final update for the project. We're going to start off with just revisiting kind of what the goal was from a parks standpoint, master plan. And really the goal for the Highland Station Park pedestrian crossing was to kind of provide that connectivity from the Highland Station neighborhood over the creek to the Highland Station Park. Making sure that it's a safe pedestrian crossing and making sure that it's ADA accessible, really for the whole community to enjoy. So if we're just focusing on the goal at hand, I'd like to present tonight kind of what our solution is for providing that connectivity. And what that consists of is having a 10-foot wide pedestrian crossing. It's approximately 50 foot long, which will provide the connectivity from Topeka Drive over the creek into the park. Generally, it's about 4 feet high. There, of course, we're going to allow the drainage to be able to pass under their bridge. The foundation or support of the structure can be kind of what the picture shows there, more of a pier foundation support, or it can just be more of a traditional culvert box crossing with some aesthetic treatments. We've got a lot of different options on the aesthetic side that we would be talking and presenting different options during the bidding process. But definitely a very aesthetically appealing structure given the context of the park environment. With this option, it's a very minimal impact to the waters of the U.S. So therefore, on the environmental permitting process, it's going to be using kind of a nationwide permit, which is a permit available that we can go out, ask the Corps, apply for it, and it's a fairly quick and easy process as long as we keep our disturbance to the ordinary high water mark and the jurisdictional waters down to a certain threshold, which we're confident that we can do that with this type of crossing. Generally speaking, with the cost, we're looking about $525,000 for this crossing. That would include the full design, construction, and then, like I said, the foundational supports, and then also the aesthetic treatments. So I could end my presentation right now, but I'm not, because I want to talk a little bit more.
So this is $525,000 just for the bridge and the crossing?
It's for bridge pedestrian crossing with the erosion control protection at the abutments and support.
With what protections?
It's for the erosion protection. If you look into the picture, there will be some rock riprap that will provide long-term protection. Since we are putting a crossing in an area where it's just an open channel today, we want to make sure the velocities, there's quite a bit of water. We're talking over 500 CFS, it gets up to about 6 foot deep through that area. So we want to make sure the structure we do put in is protected and it doesn't wash away. It'll be protected against the 100-year storm event. So yes, sir, it's for the crossing at hand to meet the goals established as part of the original Parks Master Plan.
Will that help with the erosion of people's yards that we're
Good
starting to see?
question. That's the next slide. So when we visited with city staff and actually went with Randy to kind of look at the site, to look at the constructability of what we were planning on doing to meet just really the park's goals. Y'all have seen these slides before. There's a bigger issue out there, and Randy had brought it to our attention and said, man, the erosion and the maintenance out here, it's killing me. It takes a lot of time and effort. And the picture to the top, you'll notice that it's concrete riprap, and then the flow line has dropped and degraded quite a bit, a couple of feet. This creek's continuing to, what they do, a toe cut, cause the erosion and the side slopes of the yards, the backyards starting to slough off. That will continue over time if it's not supported. And again, that's just the natural soils and the amount of water coming through. The maintenance challenges with the vegetation coming up, and Randy and his crews really does have a challenge. So he had mentioned, what is kind of the fix? What are some options y'all can come up with to look at this more globally? We understand that it was kind of originally, the goal was just to solve the park's connectivity goal, but is there a solution where we can really take care of the erosion and maintenance concerns? And so that's what I'd like to present, 2 other options that we looked at, just for your consideration, so you'll know kind of if you're looking at it from a global standpoint and you want to solve some of these other issues, I'd like to present those to you. So we looked at, again, 2 more options. With the approach to looking at these 2 options, we wanted to make sure that we didn't want to come up with options that just push this erosion control further downstream. So a lot of times in development situations, people will take care of, their particular property or their site, they'll hard armor things and cause the erosion just to push it further downstream. So we wanted to be cognizant of that. Of course, the cost, not only the material cost, but also the permitting cost. This is jurisdictional waters, meaning that the Corps will take jurisdiction if we start disturbing too much of the stream. We're going to have to go get permission from the Corps, a permit, and potentially pay for mitigation based upon the amount of impacts that we have to it. So we're sensitive to that, as well as the construction schedule. Especially when we get into Corps permitting, that process can get pretty lengthy. And then, of course, the solution needs to be in context with the park, right? We don't want just to hard armor something. It needs to still be inviting to the park environment itself. So we came up with 2 options.
Excuse me, Missy.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. You were talking about trying to get permits because of the water and stuff like that. How often is water in that channel? Is there water in it all the time, or just?
There's water in it pretty much year-round. It catches all the runoff from Hollow Station, that's where we're with some big drainage.
Yeah, but I mean, like this summer, when we had months without rain,
There was still water in it.
there was still water in
Yeah,
it?
you typically
mean,
have your
it's-
irrigation as a big source of that water.
Okay. Okay.
Now, when we say there's water in it, better than 95% of the time, it's like you much water. Okay. The only time, in fact, in the 20-some years I've lived there, I live right next to that, by the way, I can only remember 3 times it's been like that, 6 feet deep.
So if you're talking 6 feet deep and you said the bridge is only 4 feet high, am I missing something here?
No, ma'am. So we protect against the 100-year storm event as the structures, and that's a policy of the city. So what that 6 foot of water, that's generally your 100-year storm event that we're going to provide a level of protection and safety for this particular design. So everyday flow is going to be a few inches, but when the big storms do come, that park's pretty much inundated. The water does go into the park area.
So how many times in that 100 years does that water get up to 4 feet?
It's not the 100-year storm event. That's just a statistical. That means that every time that it rains, it has a 1% chance of having a storm equal to generating about 8 inches of rain.
Right. But again, if you're building this bridge 4 feet high, what are the percentage of times that it's going to rain that the water's going to hit that bridge?
1% time of every time that it rains. That's a statistical. 1% chance every time that it rains. It'll generate a volume, a depth of that equal to the 6 foot or more.
Right. But again, am I confused here? Because if the bridge is only 4 feet high, we're talking about 1%, what's the percentage of the water getting 4 feet high is what I'm trying to figure out.
1%.
1% of every time it rains. It's kind of confusing when we say a 100-year storm event. That
Right.
doesn't mean that once
Well,
in every 100 years, right? So if you're
understand.
asking, it's 1% chance that every time that it rains, that a flood of that magnitude will happen.
Cindy, another aspect of this, I understand what you're saying, because earlier we said it was 6 feet deep at times.
Yes.
But we said the bridge would be about 4 feet of clearance. The cross-section underneath the bridge isn't the same as the existing V necessarily. And so although it may be 4 feet deep, we're still able to get more water through once we develop this channel into a different section. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be 6 feet up when you're redefining this cross-section of the channel.
Okay.
And we can go into more detail. So it's also the topography is actually the banks are up that high, so it allows us to make a nice connectivity and still pass through the water without creating those adverse impacts that I mentioned at the very number one. We don't want to have the water coming over and washing away the bridge structure, and we also don't want to cause erosions on the edge. So we want to make sure that our crossings is sufficient to convey that storm event. And we did do a hydraulic model to kind of show kind of what those hydraulic impacts are. So let me talk about the full block channel system is what we'll call it, and then the enhanced channel section. Okay, sticker shock, I know. Let me go through and describe this one. So if we had all the money to solve these particular, the three major goals, which is connectivity, erosion, and then the maintenance concerns, we would put in a channel that looked very similar to what we did on East Cement Creek, which would be kind of an articulated block wall system, both sides of the creek. It'd have a concrete bottom, so Randy could have his equipment come in, easily remove the siltation from the channel and dispose of it properly. We'd have fencing on both sides of the creek for fall protection. And so the pros to this, again, it meets those three goals that we set forward with protecting against erosion. What's nice about it, it'll provide a retaining wall structure to stabilize the backyards, and also it provides that long-term maintenance that the city staff was looking for. Of course, the cons, this is the most expensive option. We're expected to see cost, and we are familiar with the costs that we would expect because of the East Cement Creek project. One other kind of deterrent on this one is there would be fencing along what I'll call the left bank, which is the parkside bank, for the fall protection, because we'd have retaining walls. So really, if you can imagine, we'd have a park area and then there would be a fence. So it wouldn't really allow folks to come down and kind of embrace the creek, if you will, or walk down to it. There'd be a fence wherever we had that wall. And this is just a few more kind of details and pictures.
How come my handout don't match what you're showing?
Sorry? Go back.
Well, how come my handout don't match what you're showing?
What does your handout say, Nikki?
Well, right here it says, can we go back one? Yeah, it's right here. It's got 3,750,000, and on mine it says improvements 2 million. That's $1 million, almost $2 million.
Said improvements what? You're on the,
I think you're on the enhanced version.
Not
Enhanced.
full block. Yeah, mine matches. It's just on the full block.
There it is.
Go back and move page. Other way.
Okay. Did we already talk about that one?
No, we haven't gotten there yet.
You're back.
Oh, got you. Thank you.
No problem.
Had me confused there.
You scared me. I was like, whoa, Trent.
At least you know I'm reading it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So there's just a couple more details following up on what I just went over. Again, this is the full block channel system. Generally looking at 50-foot long, and you'll kind of see this redundancy in each of the options because we're building off that base that we have. And this is a good time to highlight. So if we just do the park option, that first option we mentioned, the $525,000 option, we want to make sure that that is in context with the ability that if the city wanted to do any of these improvements in the future, we're not going to throw away anything. So it's set up to accommodate any future improvements. If we decide not to do these right now, at least it'll work in the future. So you'll see some redundancies, generally the same 50-foot long, 4 feet high. Again, you're going to have the crossing underneath. We look at different foundation types, probably bid both to get the most cost-effective option. Aesthetic treatments are going to be the same. The catch with this one and the next one, the environmental permitting, believe it or not, we're looking at about $1,000 per linear foot. So what that consists of is the Corps will go in and apply for our permit because we're putting the concrete bottom, in lieu of a natural channel. The mitigation's $1,000 per linear foot, and then that goes towards a mitigation bank credit. So you would buy those bank credits. And that is included in the OPCC, and that's like $600,000 alone.
So just to fix the channel, or the full block channel, minus this bridge, or whatever you want to call it, it would be $3,225,000.
Yes, sir.
This is with the bridge. I just subtracted without the bridge.
And that's for basically the full length channel like East Cement Creek, both sides.
And why does the bridge need to be 10 feet wide? Is there enough traffic that we have to have a bridge that wide?
Typically, I might defer to Laura on that, but typically that's like a trail path is generally what you'll see is 10 foot for a trail. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here.
I'm sorry, what are you trying to accomplish?
Trail path is generally defined as 10 foot wide to
But what does-
accommodate movement both directions.
How many of our trails in that whole park are 10 foot wide? 0, right? Yeah.
Again, so couldn't, what are they, 5 feet wide?
They're about 5 feet wide, yes.
So we're probably, I'm guessing we're not looking at cutting that in half because it's 5 feet wide.
You could go 5 foot if that's what you want. I don't know the trail master plan. Do you want to speak to that?
So
over here?
we have received direction to move forward with wider shared use paths. That's based on public feedback as well as, maintenance feedback for travel both directions and to accommodate, people with strollers, wheelchairs, walkers, etc., bikers, safely traversing both directions.
Well, that sounds nice. I walk this park 3 or 4 times a week. I see people riding their bicycles, strollers. I've never seen a traffic jam or somebody get, not happy to.
Yeah,
Just saying.
I just don't see that much
Okay.
traffic that requires a 10-foot wide.
Yeah, we could definitely narrow this down. I think
'Cause
the
this
idea
isn't
is
a ma-
just,
this-
it's a bridge, it's not a path where there's like shoulders, grass shoulders to kind of move out of the way for one another, so I think there was just 10 foot gives some margin just to be able to pass each other, but we could go narrower.
It's not a bridge, it's a crossing.
Crossing,
Right, Trent?
sorry.
Trent?
Yeah, no problem to
Crossing.
change it 5, 6, whatever it might be to
Yeah, we
accommodate
can-
the ADA at a minimum. That's what I
So,
would
yeah,
recommend.
what's the ADA minimum?
Generally speaking, like our sidewalks around the city, that's what I'd follow is 5 foot is what we prefer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not a main entrance. We got 2 main entrances into this park. They're already ADA. Both of them are. They got the little thing, you can pull up on them and get them. We talked about this 4 months ago here when we went over this. But, I mean, we can put the proposal together, but this is just a little side entrance. The whole reason for starting this, the premise, our citizens was here, and this is what they asked for, to us personally. They said, we got children that go down there, they cross that little creek to go to school. That's what this little path is used for. And right now, if you go down there, they got rocks stacked up. That's the bridge, it's a rock bridge. People put it in there. And when it rains, them rocks get slick and the kids slide off into the water. That's what we're trying to solve. It is not a main entrance to this park. It's a side entrance for that one little neighborhood.
It's a
of
shortcut
money.
to school.
I mean, I guess we could go back and calculate how many people's actually using it. I can stand there one morning and count how many kids cross that creek. I'll tell you right now, for $525,000, they can get their feet wet. Yeah, we can go in there and throw some bigger rocks in.
Okay, let me move on to, we know this was kind of the biggest option, right? The solve all if we had the money. So we kind of scaled it back and talking with Randy, there's options of phasing, of course, which we're not gonna get into the details. That's really for the city staff to decide. There is kind of one other option to decide that we feel that kind of hits those 3 main goals, connectivity, erosion, and maintenance. This option, as a graphic kind of shows, it provides that retaining wall along the what I call the right bank up against the homes to protect them from sloughing off over time. However, the left bank is going to be left over in its natural stage at slopes that can be maintainable by Randy and his staff, and then we'll put some like more softer armor erosion control features along that left bank. So that it gets rid of the wall, the articulated vertical wall on the left or the park side bank. Again, we'll have the channel bottom, the concrete channel bottom, so we are still looking at an environmental impact. The pros, yes, sir.
So the bank towards the citizen's house is one would bank up, and then you just let it flow off into the park.
Yep.
Is that what
Yes,
we're
sir.
saying here? Because you're using west and south now.
I'm sorry, the
I'm
picture and the
terrible with
pink
that.
there, which is up against the homes.
Yeah.
The goal is to stabilize their
Stabilize
homes,
that,
right?
and then-
We
okay.
really need a retaining wall. It's a structural solution on that because short of migrating or moving the creek itself, you're gonna need a structural solution, which is pink. On the park side, that'll be more of the natural bank.
Other than the water flowing out into the park when we do have one of these torrential rains, what's the negativeness to that?
So the pros are it meets the 3 goals, and the cons are on that parkside bank, that natural slope, it's vegetated, right? So there's
Yeah.
a chance that it could erode. Again, we've got some products out there that will protect against erosion, but that's really the only downside is it's still prone. It's a natural environment compared to a structural retaining wall.
Kids are attracted to water, and doing a wall on both sides, I think, would be more dangerous. I do think we need to look at the erosion control, because areas like Fossil Creek, where people lost their whole backyards and stuff in some of these storms, something that we do need to look at.
So when you put the one row, when you put the one side up, how much increase in volume flow does that, because that's what causes your erosion, right? The faster the water goes, the more erosion. So if I put the one wall up, how much more flow does that cause, and what's the risk of then that causing us to start eroding the bank side on the park?
So we've got a hydraulic model for this stretch, and what we'll do is we balance, it's called the roughness coefficient. So the concrete wall is going to be rougher. It's going to speed up your velocities, right? If you can imagine sending water over concrete, that's faster, right?
Right.
On the vegetated side, it's going to go slower. And what we do is balance out that model, that if we need to open up that channel a little bit more to offset that erosion. So basically it looks good, it works in the model. We all know actually out in Mother Nature might have a different, mind, but we design it to make sure that the velocities are no worse than existing condition or better. That's from a design standpoint, we do that through the hydraulic model.
So what you're saying is that that once we're done with it, even if we do this, it's not going to cause a erosion problem on the bank of the park side?
Well, from the velocity standpoint, no. As we know, Mother Nature, funny part is sometimes the erosion is actually made worse with the irrigation flow, those smaller amounts of flow and the fluctuation of the weather. How often is it dry and wet, those cycles? So there's a lot of other things out of our control that we just can't plan for. So I'm not going to say that it's no erosion, but I think from a design standpoint, with our experience, modeling it and providing products that are along the vegetated slope with erosion control blankets, so we can do what we can and then monitor it over time.
Okay.
And I would like to comment, my property backs up to East Cement Creek, and when we get real heavy rains, I can't tell you how many times I've seen kids on kickboards and floats. They climb over that 6-foot fence and they get in that draw and they just take a ride. And Randy knows, I've called him multiple times. Oh, there's washing machines back there and limbs and things. People throw stuff into that. You start fencing it in and have water for the kids. They don't care what the water looks like. They're going to go play. And I just see it.
They do that now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so.
That happens in my backyard when we have a heavy rain.
And this is just kind of a summary slide again. It's repetitive from the previous one, all the same kind of impacts and treatments that we talked about previously. Again, that mitigation cost would be the same because we are putting that concrete bottom in the channel.
That permitting piece, does that take a lot of time? Is that a big time sink?
No, from the preparation, no. But then you're on the government schedule, if you will, the core, as it's a 45-day review and turnaround comments, and then it's a procedural thing. So with these types of permits, I mean, just going through the process alone, 6 months, and then they gotta agree on your mitigation plan, and it's just back and forth, and they have time frames set. Every time you turn it in, it'll be another 45 before you hear back from them, 45 days.
I think that's what you guess.
Yes.
It's gonna take.
It's more than the nationwide permit. These are individual permits.
But Missy's point on that slide was that the environmental for both the full block and the enhanced, these last two you've seen, would be the same because you're impacting the stream.
Okay, so
I've
just
got a
kind of.
couple questions on, okay, so, I mean, one thing is we have to decide full block versus I guess you're calling it partial. So what's your all's recommendation, and whichever recommendation you go with, why do you pick, why are you recommending that? Full block versus partial? Because I think the price difference is right at about $1 million. Is that correct? Huh? Okay, almost $2 million, but that's what I'm trying to figure out,
It kind of goes back to what you're saying. Can you promise me there's no erosion that'll happen? No. So a solve all problem from the engineering side is let's just hard armor everything, because we know that'll work, right? It's not going to erode. So if, again, go back to the goals, connectivity, erosion, and maintenance, check all of them, no doubt, sleep at night, right?
Right.
That's more costly. So is it worth, and is it a priority to the city to spend that much money on this particular? Like you said, it's just a crossing. It's not the main thing. So I don't know if from an engineering standpoint we can answer that.
So from an engineering standpoint, from what I read and understood from you, all of our analysis and modeling shows that the half will be fine. Of course, you can never predict Mother Nature. Even if we do a full one, you still can't predict Mother Nature, okay? So me sitting here having to make a decision to spend citizens' money, $2 million extra dollars, I kind of lean towards the half. And so that's why I'm asking you all, is that, you know, if that's not the right decision to make, please correct me and tell me why.
And I think this is looking at it globally. I do have a concern of the backyards, having seen these in creek conditions across the Metroplex and coming in to solve the problems. Most times the houses are cantilevered over the creek by the time I come in. So I still think is something that needs to be looked at. So both of these options will address that with the wall. Right. I would just say that's the minimum kind of, or maybe program that in a future budget. But you do have a problem there. It needs to be structurally fixed. Whether you do it now or later, it probably needs to be considered.
Since we're doing erosion control, is there any federal or state funding available to help fund this project?
I'm not aware of any, and I do a lot of grants, mitigation grants. A lot of times where the funding comes in is if you can prove that the actual houses have had a repetitive loss, and we can quantify that, then that will trigger federal funding.
So Randy, this, I thought we had a plan for drainages and stuff, so where did this fit, and, you know, just in the regular maintenance and stuff, or is this just something that came to light?
This has just started kind of growing. It's gotten worse and worse and worse over the years. We have a lot of big drainage issues in Saginaw, and I'll be the first to tell you, you know, one of my, I'm sure y'all have seen it down on the boulevard, the last phase of the drainage improvements on the boulevard, which is down by Popeyes.
South.
Down by Taco Casa and that area down there. It gets severe down there. I mean, literally could have went through the drive-through at Popeyes in a boat and ordered. That's how much water was stacked in there just last summer during the big rains. So, you know.
Who did those designs for the south end of Saginaw Boulevard?
TxDOT.
Not us.
Yes.
So for drainage issues, where would this fit in your bucket list?
This is right in there with it. I don't want to lose those fences over there. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. So
it'd be in like top 1, 2,
it'd be top one.
Okay.
So
So I think what I heard is that we want to take a look at not a 10-foot wide bridge.
Yes, sir.
Crossing.
Crossing.
Sorry. 10-foot wide, maybe a 5 or 6
5
foot
foot?
wide crossing. And see get an estimate of what that would cost. 'Cause I think we definitely would want to phase these up. Is what I've heard. I think council would want to phase it up, do the crossing first, and then come back and discuss more about an enhanced channel and where that funding might come from. That's a discussion for another day, but I think step 1 would be the crossing, and
Can you do the crossing? Can you do the crossing without doing the channel?
Yes, sir.
And if you do the crossing, then come back and do the channel, or am I going to spend more money because I've already put the crossing in?
No, sir, that's what I had mentioned previously. Looking at this globally, we'd be very mindful to make sure hydraulically, if you just did the crossing, it was set in the right location to the right size so that you would minimize any throwaway as possible. So that this could be tailored so that if you want to do the crossing and then maybe that enhanced phase next and even kind of build it in length phases, you know, half and half or thirds. And then if you wanted to come do the other side of the wall, along the park side, you could break this up and then you wouldn't be wasting money as the project evolved over time.
I will say, doing them as separate projects, if that's what we're headed towards, there are some small inefficiencies, just bidding them separately. And then we would put temporary rock riprap under the crossing only that would have to be removed, so.
Well, we were looking at a culvert crossing would probably be the way that I would take that, and that way you would have your concrete bottom already underneath your crossing, and that would not be a throwaway situation. You would just have the temporary erosion on the sides.
Like a low water crossing.
Yep.
But not low.
But it would convey the
But it
big
wouldn't
storm
be low,
event.
it's-
I'm sorry?
It wouldn't be low, it would still be the same elevation as the one we're discussing right now. It would still be outside of the 100-year flood.
Is there one, because it's relative, not absolute, is there one side of the crossing that needs more attention than the other?
The
upstream
east
portion.
side.
No, no, I'm talking about with the crossing. On the picture, you have a little short pink section, and then you have that long pink section.
I think the picture up, if, because of the one on the screen right now,
If you're standing on the bridge and you're looking from the subdivision to the school, is it gonna be the right side or the left side?
Oh, upstream
Of the
or
bridge.
downstream?
Upstream or downstream,
Upstream
yes.
of the bridge, or the crossing.
That's the one that needs the most attention?
Yes,
That's the one
That's
that's,
where the erosion is occurring right now.
that's where all the
Severe-
crumbling and stuff is?
So we could phase it even more, is that sort of your thought, to phase it?
Well, I thought maybe
The
if we
crossings.
could do, and I'm not sure which way the water road goes, that's why I didn't want to use upstream or downstream.
the water goes to the page up,
The water's
North.
going up, okay. That's just,
which is downstream going up, so.
Yeah.
In talking to Kim,
so I didn't know if we could do like the crossing and downstream? Oh,
Yeah, so what's shown on the,
Upstream.
let me
And
just,
then-
so the crossing, the graphic shown there in the pink would be the upstream portion from the crossing.
yeah, the little short
Upstream.
section, like, could we do like the bridge and the short section and then maybe do the long section later?
You could break it up in phases. We just have to be careful to accommodate so we're not wasting materials and it's all in context with each other.
So I'll ask the same question I asked 3.5, 4 months ago. Why can't we follow exactly the way the kids walk now? Come down there, instead of making a left, you make a right. You go down there, and right where them kids and people have thrown rocks across, put a low water crossing.
That would be the lower end? Okay, so, we actually looked at that and evaluated it. During that big storm event, you could do that. That would probably be a true low water crossing. So if that's a desire of something you want, hydraulically, it would be completely inundated with water because it's at that point only a couple feet deep. Hence, that's probably why they cross there.
90-some% of the time, it's just a little bit of water through there, so. yeah, I mean,
So that would solve the crossing, but it would not address the retaining wall. And then the second
I
part of that.
Understand that, but we're not gonna be able to do that retaining wall here real quick anyways, it don't look like.
The second part of that is going to be in order to get a sidewalk that turns right and then left, you're gonna, the kids would be going alongside the drop off of the creek, right? So we'd wanna protect that and you would have railing for them.
Yeah, I understand if we come through and we dug all that in, we'd have to redo it, but
So you're looking at a wall, basically, with a retaining wall, so you're kinda getting back to, might as well just put a wall to prevent the erosion as well as provide the safety for turning right and then left at the low water crossing.
Would we have to take over somebody's property to get that sidewalk that turns to the left? Or is there enough space back there to,
There's enough.
to put the kink in the sidewalk?
you could go left or, well, right, they already do it. The neighbor, the house, the immediate back there, he even mows it, so.
Yeah. I think she's the one that,
They brought that to us, right?
does the first aid to the kids that, fall.
So realistically, if we do this drainage, is this something that we're going to be able to afford and do this year?
The balance at the end of the year is projected to be about $1.2 million. When we talked about it earlier today, the medium option the timeline was like about a 3-year timeline. So we would have the 2 million within that period of time. Cash flow wise, we may have to work around, do interfund transfers, but yes, you could do that. I think the decision that y'all need to keep in mind though is the priority. Like, we're just finishing finally the last phase of East Cement Creek, and in the CIP it was always kind of understood that the next priority was the boulevard drainage. So this would just take funding away from the boulevard drainage. The boulevard drainage is not going to happen in a year or two either. I mean, we would have to phase that in as well. So yes, you could, we would have cash funding for the bridge or the medium, just the improvements on the one side.
The parks grant that we were applying for, could that money, if we did receive it, be used for part of this?
Did you say could use the park grant money? It
A
couldn't
few
be
council
used,
meetings ago, they talked about applying for a grant for the Parks Department,
but it would have to be used, it couldn't be used for drainage.
because it's enhancing the park, I mean.
Isn't that correct?
I'm not sure what y'all applied for. I was in
Well,
part
Susan applied for the park grant.
of the TPWD. I'm not sure what the stipulations are on using it for a drainage project. You might be able to work with them on partially funding the crossing, but I would have to dig in and talk to the TPWD grant folks to see kind of where their line lies.
Well, currently, right now, the crossing's costing us $525,000.
Might be worth asking.
Well, that's gonna come down if we
Yeah, right, shrink her down.
the bridge, the crossing. No, it won't, you're right. But I like the idea of looking into the grant as well. That's a nice, nice thought, if we get anything. Use it for this. All right, so I think any other questions for Missy? I think we've got a couple things, a couple actions. We want an estimate on a
5
5 foot
foot.
wide. Yep.
Any other thoughts on solutions other than just get the cost down?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, if we do fix the tunnel and widen it, then we have to put a bridge across. We can't do a low water crossing because it'll be too high, right? You'll have that, a solid drop off. Am I thinking right there? Okay, so we gotta fix the tunnel. I mean, not the tunnel, we gotta fix the drainage. You look at, like I say, I live over there, so once we start fixing that, even if we do put a low water crossing in, that would eventually have to get ripped up because of the digging out and putting the bank up.
Yes, sir.
And once you put that solid bank up, that requires you to put a bridge in. Am I thinking right on that?
And that's kind of where we started thinking of, let's put the crossing in context where you could do these future improvements, so you're not having to throw it away.
So I guess my next only question, Mayor, is how long before y'all can get us the revised estimate with that, let's shrink that.
Just the 5 foot, is that the only suggestion that I hear? Okay. Do you want
That'd
to
be a
speak for the
start.
team? I think that could be a tomorrow thing, I mean, this week thing, it's pretty quick.
Come back in
PDQ.
December at our December meeting, because we'll have our meeting first week of December. We can come back and discuss
That's
it
what
then.
you want.
Yeah, I think that's what we'd like.
Okay.
So, I had another question too. So, let's say it cuts a third off. Let's say it ends up being 300 and some thousand. How long is it gonna, do we have the money somewheres to do, head shake? And if we got the money and the council gives you the thumbs up, how long is it gonna take us to get her done? Well, that's just to get that. That's not to get it built. I wanna.
Are you talking about just putting in the crossing itself, that,
Have
just
an
the park
open,
solution?
cutting ribbon, people walking across it. How long will it
Just
take us?
just the crossing, no walls, right?
Yeah,
Huh?
just
No
the
walls?
crossing.
Just the crossing. You'd have it, when I was going through it, probably constructed, designed and constructed in 8 months,
8 months? Okay.
but a year. Mhm.
And
For the
that's
city,
after
that's
all the
good.
paperwork is, and that's after all the paperwork
That's with
is-
nationwide permit with the Corps, using their availability, yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Misty?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have one comment card on this. Kelly Stewart, you want to speak?
I don't know. I'm a
You can if you want to, you don't have to, but you put in a request, so honor your request. You've heard a lot of information,
Yes,
so.
I have.
As we all have.
Kelly Stewart, 404 Mustang Drive. One was, why is it going to be 10-foot wide? We've discussed that. And this may be out of line, I don't know. This all started so that school kids could get to the schools safer. Why are we not asking Saginaw ISD to do a little bit?
Yeah, because it's our property. It's our problem, it's our property. I think that's how.
Is that what it is?
I think that's how
Okay.
it works, yeah.
I mean, just
We
asking.
own the drainage and all that stuff, so yeah.
Well, they can't tell us no if we don't ask.
Huh?
They can't tell us no if we don't ask. I mean, it's,
We asked them to participate in the bridge, and they said no. They said they can't legally participate. So
Okay.
I don't know all the rules, but
yeah,
that
but
would probably be the answer we'd get. I don't know.
this is a direct with the kids going to the school.
We can ask. I don't know.
And I know this has something to do with the housing that are being eroded. Why is the builder not part of this issue?
Typically, the builder's long gone. They build it and they hit their, I mean, those houses were built how many years ago?
20-some years ago.
Okay.
They were supposed to put the crossing in, if I'm not mistaken.
They were.
Yeah.
And there's no repercussion there?
The, what do you call that? Our
Statute of
lawyer,
limitations.
our attorney can tell us, I mean, we probably, what do you call that? Statute of limitations probably long gone.
Okay. That was mine.
All right. Thank
Thank
you, ma'am.
you.
Good to hear from you. All right, so we will look forward to hearing some more thoughts in December. All right, let's move forward. 3C, recognition of 2023 Train and Grain Festival Committee members. Gabe, take it away.
Mayor and council, October 21st was a great day in the city, our Train and Grain Festival. We started or the public came from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., but the preparation started the night before, and the planning is all year. So I want to recognize everybody that played a part in it, and when you hear your name called, please stand up, Princess Wave, running for Senate, maybe take a bow, I don't know. No, we just want to recognize everybody that worked on the event. By all accounts, it was quite a success. So passed out over 2,000 bags to people, get a free tote bag, which was great. The corn dog gauge of success. So the fire department, the association, ran out of corn dogs at about 1:30 p.m. So I'm gonna have to wait another year to have a fire corn dog. But no, we had a great time. Minimal of no incidents. Had one kind of very minor, thankfully, health-related issue. Somebody got a little warm, so couldn't have done it without our staff. So start off with the Public Works Department. Assistant Director Jared Kersey, Corey Smith, Paul Rosinski, Matt Regan, Jonathan Reams, Jeremy Cutler, Glenn Reeves, Wes Horton, Jeremy Matthews, Dusty Shelfer, Brendan Boatwright, CJ Ross, Daniel Franklin, Brad Morgan, Ryan McOye, Juan Perez, Trent Tidwell. This is the cousin of our city engineer. No, I'm just kidding. They're not related, but same name.
Yeah, not
Felipe Rodriguez, Isaiah Alcazar, Trevor Swenson, Doug Goff, and Dalen Cervantes. On to the fire department. We kicked the event off with our fire department honored guard when we posted the colors. That's Lieutenant Walker and Brian Waugh and Randy Polk. On duty were firefighters Bibb, Musser, Hamilton, and then with the association was Austin Pittman and Dean Bauman. Chief Spears, Chief Craver, Fire Marshal Cook, Battalion Chief on duty was Chief Cartwright, and then we couldn't have done it without our CERT volunteers who were especially helpful for parking and other help the day of the event. I will say our overflow lot, which was the west side of the stadium, filled, or we had to open it up at like 11:30. We had so many people coming in. So thank you to the fire department. Animal Services had pretty much everybody on hand. Unfortunately, we didn't have any adoptions. They brought pets out that could potentially be adopted, but it's good visibility, and a lot of people learned more about animal services and saw some of the dogs available. So that's Janet Garcia, Rianne Farley, Taylor Wadian, Jill Smith, Kelly Henderson, Jose Wieland, and several volunteers who walked dogs throughout the event. From the finance department, Kim Quinn, Jennifer Garrett, Maricela Vincent, Lynn Blackman, Jill Love, and John Reynolds. Library, they had rock painting, right? Pretty popular activity. Ellen Ritchie, Ronnie Horton, Angela Hines, Christy Haney, Megan Glines, and Erica Gamble. Building inspections and code enforcement. Some resident, I'm told, came to the booth and indicated that they didn't like code enforcement and or would never obtain a permit, which is generally not wise advice. Maybe if that's your feeling, just do it on your own instead of tell someone in the person. Maybe Larry Little took their picture or something. They're on a watch list. I don't know. Get a permit. That's the take-home message. Larry Little, Bryce Apple, Chris Dyer, Rocky Jones, Jennifer Whelan, Jared Smith, and Maria Glines. From Recreation, Ashton Rojas, Vicki Weldon. From HR, Melanie McManus and Vicky Vega. And the event was planned by Pedro and narrated with the velvety smooth voice of Keith Reinhardt. So thank you to everyone for the event. Thank you to our sponsors as well. In fact, Waste Connections has been a sponsor. The poor guy that runs the choo-choo train probably needs his tires replaced after training rain. I mean, nonstop loop, but looking forward to doing it again. Last but not least, police department. Highlight of the show, I think the bad guys took note, but had a really cool demonstration with K96 and Officers Garcia, Corporal Manning. That was really cool. Had a drone filming that as well. Chiefs Ragsdale and Badavinik, Lieutenants Burnett Crippett, Sergeants McDonald, Mayhew, and Espinoza, Corporal Bianco, Tara Klontz, Karen Saldana, Christina Gilliam, Officers Callahan, Osteen, Garcia, Detective Dunks, Officer Rodriguez, Corporal Tinsley, Officers Barber and Soriano, Detective Taylor, Officers Bernal, Papentine, Stewart, and Bowman. Again, would like to thank our volunteers from the Citizens Police Academy who manned a booth the duration of the event. So thank you, everyone. Let's recover over the holidays and do it again next year.
Yeah, I think plenty of things. A lot of folks involved. Thank you so much, and thank Pedro and folks for leading the charge. There was a big, big effort. We really appreciate it. All right, moving on. Item 3D, International Leadership of Texas Charter School update. Mayor Meredith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll be rather brief. On October 26th, Council members Pelleggi, Lawson, and the mayor, myself, city manager, and a number of other department heads all met with the executive staff for ILT to inquire for, essentially to request an update on the status of the construction improvements. We were told that they have submitted all of their paperwork and applications to the city for proper permitting. And have essentially said, and I spoke with Randy, we haven't released the permit yet. Evidently, we're still reviewing the paperwork, but essentially they said if we release the permit in November, construction could occur for both projects over the winter break, with estimated completion by January 3rd of next year. So it sounds like the construction process can move along rapidly as soon as they receive permission to build. The superintendent has already been assigned to the project, and they have promised us an on-site meeting at the beginning of next year to review the improvements and hopefully to see significant improvement in the traffic congestion. I understand also as a subsequent update, they have now agreed to open their gates, which they refused to do prior to this. due to security concerns, and that has already helped alleviate some of the traffic. And if the police
Yep,
chief wants
Chief,
to
you
weigh in
want
on
to
that.
update us on that?
Sure, so, after our meeting, they began opening their parking lot, staging vehicles that are on site. It reduced our backup onto Old Decatur by probably 30 to 45 minutes. I sat out there and watched traffic last Thursday, and once the backup began on Old Decatur, it got just past the Baptist Church, and within the total span of about 22 minutes, the backup was there and then gone. There's absolutely no traffic left on Old Decatur. Vast improvement over what we'd seen previously, and I think with the renovations that we're talking about making to stage additional cars on site, it's going to help really alleviate our traffic concerns that we've had, especially the duration of those concerns. We'll also have some recommendations for Randy and his group to get some no parking signs there on the Sherwood Trail, and stop some of those vehicles from parking there, because when I was there, there was a dozen or so vehicles that would park, didn't want to get into the traffic mess, even though it was running pretty efficient. They were getting cars in and out pretty rapidly. So get the no parking signs up so we don't have that staging that takes place there. But what I saw on Thursday was very promising. We tried to get our drone up the last 2 days of school to get some video, but with the winds going, we haven't been able to get our drone in the air to stay very long. So we'll have some video for council at some point that we'll forward out to show what improvements have been made.
That'd be great. That sounds awesome. Nick, or Paul, anything you want to add on that meeting?
I think the results are evident of the success of the meeting, and as soon as you sent the stuff out, I did a quick calculation, and that's where I came out with it. We're down to 30 minutes, and to me, 30 minutes takes it from a huge safety violation to an inconvenience. And, to me, 30 minutes from the time the first car touches the road to the end, I'm like, okay, that's probably something we can deal with. So I'm happy that we finally moved the needle on that. And now when they make those adjustments, increase their parking lot size and put that turn lane in, that's only going to help. And then fix the other one with put the no parking signs in. It's like I say, it's taken us a long time, but I think we're finally turning the thing, giving the citizens what they deserve.
Paul?
Yeah, I was really pleased. I expected a bunch of pushback when we were at the meeting, and there was absolutely none. They want to work with us, and I forgot the gentleman's name, but he saw the backup with the gate being closed, and it was like the next day it was taken care of. So, because he even noted there's mothers there reading books at 2:30 trying to get in the parking lot. So.
And so we're going to meet with them. We said middle of January. We'll have a follow-up meeting to ensure that they've done what they said and we're happy with it, and see where we are and if we need to take any additional steps. So.
That's right. I have it calendared, and we will get it scheduled.
Excellent. So, great. Thank you, guys, and thank everybody for involving in that. Chief, I appreciate y'all's involvement as well. Everybody, a good city effort, and let's keep moving it. All right, moving to item 3E, update to Saginaw and Lake Worth Consolidated Dispatch Services. Chief of Police Russell Ragsdale.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So a couple of months ago, we came to you and proposed an idea of a consolidated dispatch center between us and Lake Worth. One of the major concerns at that time was our employees and how they'd be treated. What I can tell you is all of our employees have completed onboarding with Lake Worth. They're all subject to receive an offer of employment if council approves the merger. With that, they're going to receive their same vacation that they have now. Pre-approved time off will be authorized and granted at Lake Worth, and they're going in at a similar pay scale or more, higher pay scale. No one will lose money. They'll actually go in at what they make now or actually increase their pay with consolidation. So Lake Worth has really worked with us on that, worked with our employees. As I said, this is an onboarding, not a new hire aspect, so they've really worked trying to include our employees. They've had several get-togethers already between their employees and ours to get that camaraderie started. So it's looked pretty good from that standpoint. In your packet, you also received a financial estimation on this year's cost and next year's cost moving forward. So currently with this year, there'd be a savings of 30 or 40,000, somewhere in that ballpark. But next year, if you look at just their
their costs. They're proposing a 5% pay raise. If we kept our employees, we'd actually save money by having those employees here. What it doesn't include, though, is the facility upgrades that we need to undergo in dispatch. So there's a number of computers, voice loggers, things of that nature that need to be replaced in this next budget. So once you incorporated those in, there would still be overall savings by doing the merger. With what's been proposed, we've been, let's say we as a group with Lake Worth, we've employed Roxo, which is a student-ran public relations agency out of TCU. And so they have 2 professors that are fully credentialed that oversee that aspect. So we're really looking at branding on this. It's not the Lake Worth Emergency Communications Center, it's the Northwest Emergency Communications Center. And the goal behind that is if a Saginaw resident calls 911, we didn't want them to hear Lake Worth 911, how can I help you? What they will receive is Northwest Emergency Communications Center, how can we help you? So every agency that joins, it's under that branding aspect. So for a pretty small fee, we've got a large publication agency, if you will, student ran that really just pushes out our brand, what we want to get out to the citizens, how we want to be known and be seen. It's all about safety and inclusion in the cities. So they've already got plans for social media, for websites, logos, and things of that nature. So the Roxo Group has really just been phenomenal as we've been moving through that. Moving forward, we've got several challenges ahead of us. So we had a computer breach that took place 3 weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, that really just brought everything to a standstill. This isn't just for the communications merger. This goes back to our CAD RMS system with Motorola Flex that is also being hosted through Lake Worth. So with that breach, there were some serious concerns with data processing, so that's all been analyzed, still being analyzed as we speak now, but they assure me that there won't be any delays with moving forward. So we're set to go live with our CAD RMS on December 5th. That's also when we're wanting to do the merger. You have council is still in good graces on that, wanting us to move forward with that aspect. So that's all at the next council meeting, so you'll have an IOA before you at that point, seeking that authorization to officially move forward. And kind of in a nutshell, that's where we are with what's happened in the background. But I am happy to report that all employees are pretty much ready to be offered employment. Lake Worth is not trying to steal our employees. No offers have been made until council decides to either move or not move. If council decides to not move forward, then all of our employees stay here, and we look at doing upgrades in-house and getting that accomplished.
So does the employees, I know you said, so I'm sure, does their tying bridge? So if they got 5 or 10 years here, they go over there, they'll go in as a 5-10 year veteran?
That's correct. They keep their seniority. Okay. Most of our employees are 1-year employees with us, so they all go in with a year already. And they go in, be hitting their 2nd year, so they'd be on step 2 of their pay system over there, or higher if what they're making here is more than what Lake Worth offers at that same level of experience. So, talking to our employees, they're very positive. I guess would be the best term to use. They look forward to this. Really, where their anxiety comes in right now is just wanting to know what that final direction is going to be. So they've been communicating with Lake Worth and been involved in some employee get-togethers with Lake Worth. So everybody's getting along, everybody's enjoying each other. So I really think they're just looking forward to working in an environment where they're not shorthanded. Because right now they're still 3 short, so there's a lot of overtime. There's a lot of missed time off that you can't take because there's no one to work. And I think they're just really ready to get to that point where it'll be a fully staffed dispatch center where multiple agencies are applying their resources to, instead of me hiring 8 and Lake Worth hiring 6, together we're going to hire 10. So we don't need as many employees overall. We can pull our resources so we can pay whatever the market is
for our region to make sure that we're attracting quality candidates, and that's really how that's going forward. Also, I'd like to mention, I can't mention cities because that would be inappropriate to do, but there are 3 agencies that are looking at joining this dispatch center as well, which actually decreases our costs considerably as they join. I think when Chief Monteshagan was here before, kind of the phased program that he proposed to you actually included that growth. So, you know, we may be on phase 1 today, but it could be that in January we move to phase 2 instead of that being a year and a half down the road, based off other cities joining. So, other cities seem to be favorable in looking at this, and much like us, it's going to be forced upon us at some point in the next decade. So we can do this now on our own and have some say in how this is going to take place and how our employees are treated, or we can wait. And if we wait, then we can be assigned an agency and not have any real say at all, and they would go in as first-year employees actually applying for their jobs and starting at the bottom. So kind of all-around win for the agency and for the employees as well.
Next,
Chief, thank you. Other questions, council?
I got one on the breach. You mentioned the breach, so can you let us know, was there any chance of citizens or critical data being compromised during that breach?
The fortunate thing is, from what I understand, is the server that was breached was I don't remember the terminology they used, but it wasn't actually connected to much at all. I think there was 20 devices on that server, and nothing that had any citizen data on it, didn't have any of our criminal justice information on it, no access to our criminal justice agency, so it was like a preset with the server that got hacked, and basically they just left us a message saying, hey, change your password.
And the breach was contained to that one server?
Contained to that one server, yes, sir. Okay. However, because of that breach, it's really resulted in a complete system evaluation, if you will, to make sure that nothing was planted on the server, nothing was accessed anywhere else. And as I say, that server had access to 20 devices total in the department, and so there really wasn't anything for them to get. And the speculation is when they got in and saw that, they're like, this isn't worth our time, so they just left a nasty gram saying, hey, you need to fix this, and bailed out of it. So.
All right, well, thank you, Chief. Thanks for the update. Any other questions, council, for Chief? Appreciate the update. We look forward to more information in December. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, going to, we're now to 5B. Considering action regarding rate increase request from Waste Connections for solid waste and recycling services. For that, Assistant City Manager Lee Howell.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As you're aware, we've had a long-standing relationship with Waste Connections Lone Star Incorporated to manage our city residential and commercial trash service. And this is an item that we bring to you every year to discuss the rate setting for customers. As you probably are aware, the Waste Connections folks have given us excellent service for about 10 years or more. We get very few complaints from our citizens, but when we do, they are very responsive and immediately address those. So we're very satisfied with the service that we've gotten from them. Pursuant to the contract, the rate that they charge is tied to the Consumer Price Index for urban cities, garbage and trash collection across the country. That measurement went up in the past year 7.2%, and Waste Connections has requested to raise their rates to 5% over last year's rate. So that would bring the residential customer monthly rate to $14.27, which is an increase per customer per month of 67 cents. And Abel and Norm have dutifully sat here patiently waiting to see if you have any questions to ask them about how the rates affect their business. So they're available.
Abel, you want to come on up?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Abel Moreno, District Manager for Waste Connections. Obviously, it's never fun for me to come up to a city and ask for money, but I can say with this year's trunk or treat, we will be sure to use any dollars we can to make sure we have enough candy for next year. That was a wonderful event, and so glad the city invited us to participate. We'll definitely do it next year. The increase, 5%, you have a very favorable contract. Kudos to your city staff. 5% is the max that we're allowed to increase. And like the assistant city manager said, the CPI is well beyond that. We are asking for this increase to take care of our trucks, maintenance, and annual increase to our employees. If there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Any questions for Abel? Oh, go ahead.
Trying to find it. It was something about the recycle containers. Are we staying with the bins, or are we changing over to the?
I'm so glad you brought that up. We would love the opportunity to present something in front of City Council to bring carts to the city of Saginaw. We do have an opportunity. The contract is up next year, so this could be something that we discuss as part of a new agreement if the city wishes. Obviously, the city has options. You can go out to RFP. We feel we've got a great partnership. We'd like to do that and add some services possibly, get in negotiations with city staff on adding carts instead of those bins. If you look at today with Amazon, with everything coming, those bins, they just don't cut it. And we'd like to upgrade the city if we have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I was trying to find.
I'd like to see us look at that, because we have gotten some residents' complaints about the bins not being big enough. And also, you know, they do come with lids, but nobody uses them, and we get a windy day and stuff's all over the place. So I think it would help beautify the city a little bit if we did go that route.
And they break
The
pretty
reason nobody
easy.
uses the lids, because when it's windy, it blows them away.
And they get water.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's something we could look at over the next year. If you could present to us. I don't know how much appetite we have for that, but let's talk about it.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Abel about the current contract and this request? I have not gotten too many complaints, really any complaints about the trash service. I'm the most critical, I know, because my trash doesn't always get picked up because I'm in a weird spot, but they know that. And I appreciate your responsiveness as well, I do. I'm a bit of a cranky customer sometimes. So, but I appreciate you guys get back.
The other thing I appreciate is when there's been delays in pickups, even if it's a day, the notification that we've been sending out, instead of people, you know, being proactive instead of reactive with it, has been awesome.
Thank you.
The one thing that I do probably hear more than anything else is when we have our bulk collection in April and October, is we have this 7-day span, but, you know, some people are putting things out, you know, 3 or 4 days ahead of time, and it doesn't get picked up until the end, and there are people scrambling trying to get things out on day one, and they don't get everything out because we get picked up first. Is there any way that you could kind of give, like we're going to start on, not that we're going to hold your feet to the fire, but we're going to start here and kind of hit these areas, kind of map out the regions that you pick up?
Yes, ma'am.
That would
I'll
be
do a
some-
better job. I'll get with city staff and we'll put a plan together, the next bulk pickup, and we'll notify the residents where we're gonna start. And two, it may not hurt just to let them know where we're at that day.
Yeah.
And let them know, okay, we're gonna start this area tomorrow. So let me work on that.
I appreciate that. I know that's been a question that's been posed to me for many years.
Yes, ma'am.
And just have maybe like a little map, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, I will say that overwhelmingly, I agree with the mayor that we get very positive results. And other than the recycle bin, the rest of the thing, I would be very hesitant to attempt to change or modify. They're very happy with their bulk the pickup and how you guys are. And the number one thing you hear is we do not want Fort Worth.
No.
Yeah, see, so very, very good. Like like I say, it's a hard job. I see you guys out there all the time in the hot weather, and man, like I say, overall, I think they do an excellent job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Abel. Thank you, Norm. All right, if no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the rate increase of the waste connections for solid waste and pickup.
Cindy, second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
You know I couldn't come here without saying anything.
I should have called on you. I'm sorry, Norm.
Thank y'all for your business. I appreciate it. All of you out there.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. All right, moving on. 5C, consideration and action regarding ordinance 2023-30, amending the master fee schedule by amending the fee for residential trash and recycle services. Assistant Manager Lee Howell.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this item is simply an amendment that Janice prepared to change the fee schedule in anticipation of you approving the rates that you just approved.
Council, any questions on this? Any follow-up questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2023-30 as presented.
Okay. Have a second? Paul, let's let Paul second that one. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Janice. All right, move forward. 5D, consideration action regarding resolution 2023-23, election of members of the Board of Directors of the Tarrant Appraisal District. That falls to me. So we've got a ballot. We have 13 votes. Is that correct? 13 votes. We can put our votes up to one person, or we can spread them out. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I believe 7 folks on the ballot potentially nominated. Y'all have seen this nomination. I've got a couple people that want to speak, but I want to hear from council first. What are your thoughts on this process? Who would like to go first? Nikki, all right.
Yeah, I looked through them, and I had originally narrowed it down to 3 candidates I liked. I sent an email to all the candidates. I did get a reply back from one, and it was Gary, and that's a gentleman we supported last year. I asked Janice to send you all his responses. I was very impressed with them, so I throw my hat, name, my whatever vote behind Gary, and think that, we should give him all 13 votes to do the best we can to get him in there.
Council, other questions, comments?
I have a similar experience. Mr. Lasada is the only one that I had the opportunity to speak with. So I'm willing to give him lucky 13 votes.
Well, he's actually here, so we can hear from him in a minute. Any other council thoughts?
Just, I had some discussions this morning, and I was informed he's assisted with over 8,000 protests, and he's out there for the citizens, and I would like to give him our full support.
All right, anything else? All right, Mr. Pete would like to speak. Come on up, sir.
John Pete, 644 Fox Run Trail. Well, y'all know a lot of my passion is taxes. And I first started getting involved with Tarrant Appraisal District on the 28th of June of 2022, when I went down there and told them that there's going to be a large crowd that was going to be supporting Chandler Crouch on the 30th of June of that year. And they didn't listen to me. So, and the result of that was that the president, Catherine Willman, she got relieved, or she resigned, or something like that, but found out a lot about taxes in general, and become quite a bit of a student. But I would support and definitely encourage you all to vote for Mr. Gary Lasada, and I'm introducing him, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pete. Mr. Lasada, would you like to come up?
Good evening, Mayor Flippo, council members. My name is Gary Lasada, and I reside at 802 Dove Creek Trail in Southlake, Texas. I'm not sure what you want to hear from me tonight, but I'll just be straight to the point. TAD is a mess, and if you have been reading things in the newspaper, a lot of folks that I've spoken with have said, well, you can only believe 50% of what you read. In this case, that's not true. You probably need to read and believe about 90%, and that's not been good. TAD needs some help. I spent 2 years 2 years ago on the TAD board, and then went off the board, and have been asked this year to run again to help try to clean up the mess that has occurred. The current board majority has been what we refer to as a coffee and donuts board. They just don't want to act on anything. So that has been a topsy-turvy situation for the last 2 years. That has led to the resignation of the chief appraiser. He resigned, gave 2 days' notice, and just split. That's not the way you do things professionally, but he knew that it was hot in the kitchen and decided he wanted to get out. Prior to spending 2 years on the TAD board, I spent 6 years on the appraisal review board. And I was the chair of the panels that basically hear your protests. So if you came to TAD and didn't like your value, you would sit in front of a panel and you would protest it, and then we would opine and give a value. I've done thousands of hearings, literally, and I've seen a lot of what goes on at TAD. I know where the skeletons are, and I'll just give you probably about, I could go on and on and on. I did respond to your email. And did you share that with the rest of the board, council?
Yes.
Okay, so I won't bore you by going through all of the accomplishments, but I will tell you the 3 things that are hot buttons that need to get taken care of. One is we need to get a new chief appraiser, and we got to get it right the first time. Secondly, we're going to need to institute an audit on the software. The software has been a nightmare since its inception in 2016. My panel was selected to do a mock review. We brought in different accounts from the county, and I did a 1.5 page dissertation, if you will, saying how it was not working and would not work. And here we are today, and I'm telling you the same thing. So there's been a lot of money wasted at TAD relative to this system. So we've got to get the software audited, fix the problems, and move on, and have a new approach at TAD. The last thing is, which is tied to all the above, the culture has to change at TAD. It has been a negative culture. It has been adversarial to the taxpayer, and that's not the way it should be run. So with the chief appraiser on the horizon, it needs to be made clear to the chief appraiser that the attitude at TAD has got to change. We need to be more friendly towards taxpayers. And the other thing we need to do, and we are commanded to do this, by the way, in the state property tax code, and that is to be uniform and equal in the appraisal process. It has not been like that for almost 15 years. So that has to change also. That's my third point. I could go on and on and on and on. I love to speak in front of engaged groups like you are, but I will be quiet from speaking from my standpoint, because I'd rather answer your questions, because you probably have things on your mind, and I would love to do that.
Yeah, council questions? Mary, go ahead.
I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate your coming before us, even though we have so few votes. Sounds like you have a good grasp of the situation. Have you been able to visit very many city councils?
I've visited 25 taxing entities. Of that, I'm not sure what the mix is, but it's been city councils, it's been school districts. The reason I wasn't here at the beginning of your meeting, I was at Fort Worth ISD speaking in front of them. So yes, I'm very engaged. I have the largest number of nominations of any candidate by far. And you said you only have 13 votes. It could be 1,300, it could be 3. I'm still gonna represent you the same way. The number of votes is irrelevant to me. It's what needs to be done and done correctly.
Well, that's very admirable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I just want to thank you for being responsive, and the fact that you're here tonight, the fact that you answer phone calls and respond to emails just gives me, hope that we can get all this stuff under control and help our citizens. What you're talking about being fair and equitable, I totally understand that. My neighbor and I have the same size house, and her house is valued $40,000 less than mine, and, you know, can't explain why. But, you know, I applaud you and the efforts that you put out, especially coming out and speaking to these taxing entities personally. So thank you.
One of the benefits of being retired, I can do that.
Any other questions, guys?
Yes, just exactly what Cindy said. It's exact same thing in my neighborhood's the exact same. It isn't fairly applied. Same house built at the same time by the same builder, and there's $30,000-$40,000 difference. So
I'm keenly aware of that, but let me make something absolutely clear, since I'm speaking in a public forum. As a TAD Board of Director, I do not have the authority to get involved with individual tax protest. If I do that, I'm subject to a fine and possible imprisonment. As it related to the ARB, that was a whole different thing. And I was empowered as a chair of the ARB to listen to those concerns about equity on values and fair appraisals. And I will tell you, and I don't know the exact number, but probably 80% of the taxpayers that came before me, and I'm talking about thousands of them, got their value lower to what they asked for. Because all you had to do to come before my panel was show me that something's not fair, and that was good enough for me. So, and our panel felt the same way, by the way, because I was one of 3 votes. I don't want to take all the credit, but anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Lasada.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
coming by. All right, folks, I will entertain a motion on this to allocate our votes.
Mayor, I make a motion that we allocate all 13 votes for Mr. Lasada.
Do I have a second? Cindy, second that? So the motion is to cast all 13 votes on Gary Lasada. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passed. Good luck, sir. All right. 5E, consider action regarding resolution 2023-24, revisions to the City of Saginaw personnel policies. Melanie.
Good evening. Basically, what this is I'm requesting revisions to the personnel policy for our longevity. After going back to Chapter 10, the longevity pay, we noticed that the pay has not been increased since, I guess, 1996. It was $5 in 1996 of October of 1996. We moved to $6. So it's been 27 years since it's been increased. So we are wanting to increase it to $7 for every month that you're here for the employees. With that, there would be a financial impact that's not budgeted already of $5,087. And one of the reasons we have the funds is that we would be able to use for the next item for Chapter 11 Employees Incentive Program. Back in 1996, the city manager, Renee Stanford, had adjusted the sick leave. Originally, we had 8 days of sick days, and then we changed it to where we could get accrued up to 320. So we have, most of the employees have a lot of sick leave that they're able to use rather than not having it. So we rather have the employees take the time off that they need rather than coming to work ill or sick. And then it makes a healthy work environment, plus makes them healthier. So I'm asking to approve the $6 to $7 effective this December, and then remove Chapter 11 in the incentive program for the attendance. So I'll answer any questions you have.
Questions for Melanie? Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah, so they have 8 sick days a year now?
We did in 1996, before 1996. That's what we had.
Okay, and what do you have now?
And now we have we can accrue up to 320 days, 320 hours.
320 hours, okay.
320
I thought you said
I
days,
said
and I'm
days.
going like.
I didn't mean to.
That's a lot.
320 hours.
And that's in a year time?
Yes.
And you want to change that to what?
We want to leave the sick leaves like they are. It's just the incentive program for not using sick leave. We would get either comp time, which would be 8 hours, I guess 4 hours per quarter. And then if you didn't use any sick leave, that would be a benefit. But since we have so much accrual, I don't think it's necessary for people to not use the time if they're sick and get well, rather than getting the benefit of the 8 hour, or 16 hours total for the year of comp time.
Other questions? All right. Thank you, Melanie. I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve 5E as it is written.
I'll second.
Valerie, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, Melanie. Appreciate it. I think that's it, folks. No executive session, so at, what time is it? I've got 8:39. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I make a motion that we adjourn as presented.
Any second? All in favor, raise your right hand. At 8:39, we're adjourned. Thank y'all.